Hello and good evening. For All Mankind, Season 1, Episode 6, Home Again, is over, and it has been since November 22nd, 2019, but we're just getting started here for this May, what is it today? The 12th,
Well,
2025, as we continue our mission to watch every episode of For All Mankind and talk all about it. I am Dave Mader, streaming here live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. No, we're not on Facebook. Facebook Live's still not working. Screw them. We're on YouTube, though. We're here. And Twitch is here, an audio version. And Facebook will probably get posted later. But anyway, that doesn't matter. We're getting started.
Damn you, Zuckerberg!
Yeah, Zuckerberg, what are you doing? We got a great panel here to talk all about this episode of For All Mankind. Coming to us once again with the interesting background, it's Jody Simpson.
I learned how to do things. Anyway.
Well,
he's not even in mission control anymore, but where will you smoke cigarettes?
Well, I'm not smoking. I'm on the moon.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. Gordo would really like a pack of smokes and a bottle of booze, but it's probably not coming right away. Coming in next here. Oh, looking good with the green t-shirt tonight. It's Kevin Millard.
Hello, Dave. I'm surprised they haven't figured out a way to smoke up there.
Me
Like
too.
that, they got NASA engineers. You figure that'd be the first thing they would try.
Just wait until they get enough people. And then
Problem
the
is ashtrays. I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah,
They
black
left all the
market.
ashtrays in mission control.
They did, and they're smoking.
And you
They're
can't-
smoking for two. Really.
And you can't fly that guy up that walks around with the bucket and dumps them all. Like you can't
Mm-mm.
fly him there. So who's gonna empty out all the ashtrays? That's really what
Exactly.
It comes
Well, Nate
That's
is
the
dead.
problem.
Maybe. I don't know. Coming in next from our nation's capital, it's Adam Woodward.
Hey guys, I am here tonight. It's very warm in our nation's capital this evening. I tell you.
down. It's not warm in my basement. I can tell you that.
Well, that's because you're on the moon, darling.
You can't see it, but I might be nipping.
Ooh,
Well, you might have some other issues on the moon there. And of course, coming to us from Jamestown base, care of Fredericton, New Brunswick. Or no, is it Moncton? I'm sorry. I got the wrong New Brunswick city.
doxing me. I'm at Jamestown base.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Hello,
It's Heather
everyone.
Narduzzi.
I know you may not recognize me without my mustache, but
Yes.
Wait, that
Well,
was you?
the 70s aren't over yet. You have to keep it. What are you doing?
I sent that photo to a group of my friends, and my one friend replied, my first thought was, hey, that dude looks a lot like Heather.
Well, she does.
I'm not
He
sure
does.
that's a compliment, but anyway.
We're here to talk all about it. Of course, in this episode, a launch pad accident leads to delayed missions, and there's some FBI background checks as sort of this McCarthy era witch hunt kind of kicks up. They're looking for the gays. They're looking for anybody who could be blackmailed by the
Gays
Soviets.
and the commies.
The gays and the commies and those liberals and those, I don't know, there was other adjectives and
Militant
labels used.
homosexuals.
Militant homosexuals, yes. It's the worst kind of homosexuals, of course.
Is this NASA or MAGA?
Well,
Topical.
depends who's in which administration is in power.
Can't
I
wait for
suppose.
all the hate email now.
Yes. Spoilers if you have not seen this episode of For All Mankind, of course. But we're going to talk all about it. Yeah, guys, this episode it's pretty heavy on the emotions. It's there's a lot long scenes talking, a lot of talking, and there's a lot of a little bit of action, but mostly it's interpersonal conflicts and issues and things like that. I don't know who wants to go first. Anybody eager to jump in? How about Heather? Heather, what do you think?
Hello. I liked this episode. A lot of emotional depth. As you can see, though, none of the looks inspired me enough to even make an attempt at it. So that was a little bit of a downer. But we see some forward movement from the characters. And of course, the big ask for Margot to go and get the report, which was really heart-wrenching to watch that. That was sad.
Yes, we get the return of Werner von Braun in this episode. As Margot is kind of forced into going to see him in Alabama, and all of that, unfolding. She learns about her father's past.
Hi,
Hey, Sam.
Sam.
Yeah. We also find out in this episode, Ted Kennedy was elected president in 1973, I guess, or 4, over Richard Nixon.
God, this really is a shithole of a history, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
At least he was a Democrat.
yeah, but we'll talk about some of the choices in his administration. And the Equal Rights Act is a big piece of legislation that gets passed in this episode and has ramifications on a few other things. And
This episode also deals a lot, as you were saying, with the hunting the gays, and Ellen and Larry really feeling the pressure to cover up who they really are.
yes, and Pam's getting her heart broken in the process. Adam, what did you think of this episode?
It was heavy. It was, let's face it. I mean, like right off the bat. I mean, we'll get to it, of course, but that scene on the platform of the Apollo rocket, like that was crazy. I really like that character, so I want him to die.
And again, he's based on a real person
He's
who's
a real person.
not dead in our timeline, still alive.
Well,
Gene
that's
Kranz.
nice. Hi, Gene Kranz. Hope you're watching.
Hope you're watching. You're not really dead.
You're
but
not
in
dead. Super.
You're dead in this timeline, this alternate timeline.
Remember, he was credited with the phrase "Houston." No. A failure is not an option, but he actually never said it.
But he's credited with it, so good for him.
He used it for his book.
Yeah.
Well, then he did say it.
He did say it.
Well,
he
he
said
did
it in this show, right? He said it in this.
He did say
Yeah,
in the
he
show.
did say in this show, but it was actually the movie that inspired him.
Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Which again didn't happen in this time, like at least not the events of Apollo 13 as we know it. So
I've been enjoying this show so much that I went back and watched Apollo 13 the other day.
Yeah, I did that too, Heather.
Excellent.
Actually,
Holds up. Great.
it has held up because it was very much a period piece, but it was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, of course, watching it when we've been watching For All Mankind with the cutting edge special effects and the more modern style of storytelling and filmmaking. So it was a bit different in that way, but it was excellent. A lot of heart. Great.
You were back in the 90s all of a sudden?
Tom Hanks was so young.
Right.
That was 99 or I think 99.
It's earlier than that. No, it's like 94.
94, 95.
Something like 95. It's after Forrest Gump because I remember. Yeah,
it was right after Forrest Gump.
Gary Sinise and Tom Hanks had already worked in.
I was working for a video store when that came out, so I know it was around then.
Let's get over to Kevin. Kevin, any top line thoughts?
You mentioned
95.
Heather, you mentioned Margot in that having to go to Von Braun, but in that scene where he's asking her to or telling her to, I was really struck by how much she's changed over those years that we don't see, but how
because it's like 2 years later, right?
How forceful she is and how like this is her boss basically, and she's like, "Fuck you!" Like,
well, she just got passed
doing any of this.
She just got passed over for.
She just got passed over for promotion, so she's
which
bitter.
she rightly deserved. So
Right.
definitely some bitterness there. But you're right, a lot of standing up for herself. Where in the past she just took the shit from the people who called her Werner's girl and left sauerkraut on her desk and all that disrespect.
I still think that was fantastic, though.
Not a team player.
I'd love to have sauerkraut on my desk.
It's hard to be a team player when the team hates you.
Yeah.
True. True. And yeah, she had that baggage of being connected to Werner, which was a foot in the door, but also kind of a noose around her neck in some ways because of his scandal and his departure too, especially.
But I'm sad that in the end she is corrupted by the system.
She kind of embraces that corruption. That all systems are corrupt. I'd as well be corrupt with them. And
you know what? I loved that. We'll talk about it more when we get to it, but like it's
we
fuck or get fucked, basically.
We also get Aleda meets Margot for the first time in this episode. That relationship is going to continue. But so that there's a debut. But Jody, let's get over to you here. What was your favorite part of the episode?
I liked the twist with the the explosion on the launch pad. I didn't expect that, and I'm now at a point of the show where I didn't continue to watch it, so I'm now in fresh territory. So that I totally didn't remember, and literally I looked away for a second. I was doing something else at the time, but I looked away, came back, and it's like, holy shit, what happened? I had to go back because it was
I had
so
forgotten
fast.
about this myself. I had seen this years ago, but it had been a while, and I was watching this. I was like, oh yeah, they're all dead.
But this is that typical episode in the 10 and 12 area where it's like midpoint where it's mostly dialogue and there's not a lot of action because we've already hit you with that for the last little while. So now we're going to build in story a little bit more, and then from there we'll go back again.
Yeah,
I actually really like that scene too because it's silent. Nobody even gasps or screams or yells or anything.
Yeah, they just look at it like, what the hell? Like they're in total shock, and then it's like they all.
And then we got a time jump pretty much after the credits.
Yeah. But well, I'll save my comments till we get there, because I think there's more to it.
Well, it's coming right up here, so we'll jump in. Of course, this is the second episode directed by Sergio Mimica Gazan. But this one run by Stephanie Shannon, and takes place from August 24th to October of 1974. So it's all within 1974. Let's jump into it. So we begin here at the Johnson Space Center in Florida, Cape Canaveral, right?
I rewatched, of course, tonight, but the first time I watched this was not that long ago. So when the opening scene came up and Apollo 23 came up, I went, "Oh no!" Oh, I know
not a
what's
good number.
coming.
It will go down in history in this universe along with Apollo 1, but for all the wrong reasons. As we there's some of the, I think, real footage they're kind of using here, and then
they've cut back and forth,
and then they transition to the shows. We see Gene has moved on from Houston. He's not at the Space Center. What's that place called at this point?
Johnson Space Center.
No, Johnson Space Center is in Florida.
Johnson Space is in Houston.
Is in Houston?
Yeah.
Okay. Then what? Okay, this is Cape Canaveral then.
Cape Canaveral's in. So basically, they launch the rockets and then they turn it over to Houston to manage.
Yeah.
Aren't they calling it Cape Kennedy though? I don't think they call it Cape Canaveral.
It's the Kennedy Space Center, but it's on the Cape Canaveral.
Okay, I understand.
Gene's not in mission control anymore. He's here now.
Right. So he's on the Cape.
He's on the Cape. He's wearing a white hat. He's wearing the sterile stuff.
He looks like a happy little chef in this hat.
Yeah. He's
he is about to cook something.
Yeah,
Jody!
Too soon. As Gene is saying goodbye here to Michael Collins, who is now the mission commander. He's moved up the ranks since having been on Apollo 11 with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. I don't know if this happened in real life or not. We can get in fun facts if Michael Collins ever went on to command his own mission. But he says he'll land it better than Neil and Buzz did on 11. So,
well, that's not much though, is it?
That's not saying much. Well, I guess just as long as you survive.
They sideswiped the damn thing, didn't they?
Yeah, they were lucky to have survived it all, but they did. So anyway, they're a little goodbye here as they seal up Apollo 23, and down on the pad we see here's Deke and Margot all in mission control. There's also up on the moon at the Jamestown base. They are communicating with Houston. We meet this new guy. First of all, at Jamestown, we have Ed Baldwin, of course. Gordo is up there now, and Danielle is the third member of this crew at Jamestown, as they are like the first team assigned to get that place kind of going. They're meant to be relieved by Apollo 23, the Michael Collins crew that are on the pad right now.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, but
they're already late. They're already late as well.
We also meet.
They're just going to have a barbecue.
We also meet a new administrator of NASA. His name is Administrator Wisner, Harold Wisner. I guess because Thomas Paine went when Nixon went, presumably in the election. So this guy.
Right. I was wondering why they replaced him, and I figured it was just over the years. But of course, that's right. Payne was Nixon's guy, and this is Kennedy's guy.
This is Ted Kennedy's guy.
I love though that they're basically the same guy.
The same guy.
Almost the same. Yeah.
Personality wise, yeah, like they act very much the same, and they have the same priorities.
You know who this guy reminds me of, though? The warden at Shawshank.
Shawshank, yeah.
Yes, but
It's not the same actor, but
It's not.
very
no.
close. Yeah,
but he was the runner-up for the role, actually. I just
No
making
doubt.
that up. But so yeah, they're having a laugh. How they want they want better food up at Jamestown, better like things, and they're eager to get relieved. So there's all jokes here with Harold Wisner, and everything's going great here. And then Harold introduces us to the first woman mission control, because we find, they mentioned Jean has moved on from his position. This woman has earned the position through hard work and merits.
So at this point,
This guy hates her.
didn't you guys think it would be Margot? I did.
100%. I was
didn't
glad
think
when
so.
this bitch came out. Where's Margot? What's happening?
Yes.
I did, but they went a little too long, and I was like, they're not gonna do it.
Mhm.
I could see her in the background, so I already
It
knew
is
was-
Irene Hendricks, a character we have not yet met before this point. She's introduced, and Margot's kind of shown maybe not the happiest about this. We thought it was going to be her, but it's not her. It's this other person.
I like that Margot does the bare minimum number of claps for politeness reasons.
3.
And then it's like,
3.
3
Mhm.
claps, just to have to say it was a clap.
yeah.
But everyone else is very happy to welcome Irene. I guess Irene's a team player, more than Margot. I don't know.
She does wear a turtleneck nicely, which is something that Margot's been working on as well.
Right. Gene always wore a vest when he was mission control guy, and I guess so.
She
She's got
seemed
one
very
too.
competent.
She's got the vest.
Mhm.
There's nothing else to indicate us that Irene's not qualified to be doing this. It's just
No.
that
Absolutely.
that Margot would be the more obvious choice to us because we know her already, and she's been there she's the first woman to have worked in mission control.
Since 1966, she started at NASA, and it's 74 now.
So 8 years later, and Margot's not feeling passed over, rightly so.
I will say, can you switch back to that, Margot, please? I do like this very obvious 70s style haircut and those like tortoiseshell round glasses, very indicative of the era of style.
Oh yes.
Still not like cute enough for me to dress up as it, but she looks good.
Still not good. Yeah. Well, it'll come. Well, maybe we get to the 80s. So we see her. She's taking command here. Margot, going along. Nothing said, but you can kind of get the story here. And I think that's. Oh yeah, Gordo keeps asking for things, and they keep telling him to not worry about it.
Anybody find it ironic that they put Colonel Flag on the moon?
Colonel Flag.
What?
Oh, Rick
Yeah,
Flag.
isn't that his Rick Flag? That's it.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, well, he's
Yeah.
a Navy
Suicide
man in
Squad.
this world, so
Yeah.
he's an admiral, or no, I
That
guess
was
he's
the-
still
that was his name in Suicide Squad.
in Suicide
Oh.
Squad. Yeah. Okay. Then we head over to the outpost where a whole bunch of people are gathered, not to see Apollo 23, but rather to see the passing of the Equal Rights Amendment in the Illinois State Senate, because they need a certain number of states to ratify this new, amendment to the Constitution. And they need Illinois, I guess, at this point. Illinois at this point is run by a conservative Republican governor, but Baba Wawa gives us the report here.
They nailed it with her. I thought it was archival footage. I checked. It's not. It's an actor playing.
I
her.
want to know why we're still using black and white TVs.
Well, they can't get a new one yet. It's the outpost. I think color TVs were around by this point in the early 70s, right?
Oh,
But,
well into it, yeah.
Well, they're
we
probably
didn't have our
prohibitively
first
expensive.
color TV until like 1979.
Ah,
That's the year I was born.
wow. Like my dad told me when he was a kid, they hadn't invented color yet.
maybe I got it wrong.
It was they grew up all in black and white. But that wasn't true. He was pulling their leg. Anyway, so Illinois has come somehow miraculously, despite the Republican governor, is coming along and they're passing this Equal Rights Amendment, and so it's passed. It's a constitutional amendment that's going, and there's a big celebration here. We got Pam and Ellen celebrating, a little bit of an embrace here. They're very happy. Back at Apollo 23 at their launch site here in Florida, they're all kind of getting ready to wrap things up here. Gene's ready to go for lunch, I guess. And,
That won't be a
Not
problem in
Dean.
a minute.
that will be a problem in a minute. But before that, we have a scene here with Deke back in Mission Control in his office as he's talking to our new administrator here, Wisner, about, he's like, I got a new astronaut going on the next mission, right?
And it's me.
He starts talking about all these astronauts, and then he finally goes, and my last one, Deke, me. And he goes, what do you
Me.
mean? You have a heart condition. You're not allowed to fly. You've been grounded since Mercury. And he goes, well, I'm going. I get to decide who goes to the missions, and I'm going to be one.
He's got such a shit grin on him too, which makes it even
He
better.
does.
Yeah. So
I love it because he got grounded after the Gemini rockets because of a heart murmur, and I guess they took that condition away. So he's going. Damn it.
Yeah, he's cleared medical now, so that whatever sidelined him in the past is no longer an issue. And so, but President Kennedy, Ted Kennedy, might not be too happy about this. We're told by Wisner. Also, we get a scene here at the school of the Stevens children and the Baldwin son.
Shane and Danny.
Shane and Danny, as they're in trouble, they were throwing cherry bombs into the toilets, I believe.
Mhm.
Was there,
I just don't care about this part of the story at all.
And so, Karen's kind of dealing with all the fallout because, Ed and Gordo are on the
Yeah.
moon. Tracy's dealing with all her training issues as an astronaut. And so Karen's kind of raising all three kids,
She's literally running two families. Yeah.
Yeah, running two families.
And I think it's very telling here that the administrator is like, okay, well, let's get to the bottom of what might be causing this behavior. And Karen's like, nope, I'm taking him home and beating him. Thank you for your time. Bye.
Because that's how we do it in the 70s, damn it.
She's like, I will punish them. What do you think would be an appropriate punishment? And they're like, well, I'm not so concerned with the punishment, but more why are they lashing out? I'm like,
Why the antisocial behavior? She's like, antisocial. They're getting extra beatings now.
Exactly.
Well, I smoke my cigarettes.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a very progressive principal for the 1970s. I'll give him that. Anyway, but he's like, he's like, I know your family are all astronauts, and I know that must be hard. But Karen's like, we manage. Don't worry about it. We don't need you getting in here. This guy's a bit of a dweeb, anyway.
I feel like that's a pretty good excuse for being a brat as a child. My dad's on the moon. Mm-hmm. I have no parental supervision whatsoever because my dad's literally on the moon.
On the moon. He's not even in another country. He's on a different world, as it will. But so Karen then leaves the office. She said, she gives a scornful remark here to the boys about no words until we get to the car, and
then I'm gonna slap you from the front seat.
Yeah, maybe.
Over and over again.
We never see her hitting them or anything, but it's
we know what happened.
We don't need to anyway. But they're starting to act out here, these boys, and Karen's dealing with it. Back at the outpost, they're drinking. Help me out here. What was this conversation about? About the equal rights? Because Wilson, what's his first name?
Larry.
Larry Wilson here. He says, it's the Equal Rights Act. It's not the Gay Rights Act.
He says that right as Pam puts her hand on Ellen's hand and Ellen uncomfortably pulls her hand away. That broke my heart right here.
Yeah, she pulls it away and Pam notices, and because, Ellen's very worried about the public-facing image. She's an astronaut, of course. She's also from this very rich, powerful family as well. And I don't know, they've been keeping up this facade that her and Larry are a couple. now for a couple of years, I guess 4 years at this point, that this has been going on. It's subtle, but it's there in the scene. Then we go back to Florida, and then we get to the
Back to the barbecue.
Back to the barbecue, as they're getting ready to, finally move on here. And this is where
They swiped out a component. Remember, they were having a delay.
they were having a delay. They had to fix something component. Gene says, "Okay, now we'll get lunch." And they said that there was 11 people killed here, 11 men,
12 including Gene.
12 including Gene, but this is clearly a woman right here, so at least one was a woman. Well, assuming they all died, these were all casualties of this explosion. Pretty sure they were, as the rocket at the base goes off, and they're gone in an instant. Like, it's so fast. Back in mission control. No, there's kind of like this moment where nobody notices right away.
Their heads are down. They're looking at their screens.
Yeah, the heads are down, and you can see
they're all heads down, and everyone's kind of doing their thing, but
blowing up. Yeah,
but we just see this rocket on the monitor, like just engulfed in flame. And then finally everyone does notice, and there's just this eerie silence. No one knows quite what to do. Everyone's just stunned until I think Ellen, the new flight director, finally says, "Lock the doors." And
yeah, well, you don't want any press getting in here or anybody taking pictures.
Yeah,
I thought they did a really good job with showing that explosion on the screen, the way that it billowed out and then slowly turned to black. Like, it was really unsettling, really upsetting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the beginning of it looks like part of the launch, and then all of a sudden it goes to the black, and then you're like, oh.
And that is our teaser section for the episode, as Home Again title card comes up. As mentioned,
Some people
that teaser felt so long that I was like, that was a short episode when it came up.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I'm like, wow.
It's a bit of a longer lead-in, yes. They're setting a lot up here. Okay, well, now it's not teaser anymore. We get more Barbara Walters, of course. But this is an actress doing an impression, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Even like the on-screen version?
Because I always watch with captions on, and in the captions it says Barbara Walters. So it's meant to be Barbara Walters, but she's being played by an actor whose name I can't remember. First name Megan, but I don't remember her last name.
Okay, we'll look that up in fun
She
facts.
does a good job.
Fun facts. She did, yeah.
Yeah, she's talking about it's. I think it's been 2 months since this explosion, so they jumped ahead in time here, but we get to see it again from this angle in the teaser, and the news announcer is giving us the whole.
This guy is always a news announcer and stuff, and he's always a jackass. Like, you always feel like you want to punch him.
Yeah,
I don't know.
As we mentioned,
maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just too aggressive for TV.
Maybe sometimes. Gene Kranz is gone. In this world, not in our world. He's still alive. And we also see that the astronauts, Michael Collins and the rest, they were not killed in this explosion because they had the emergency ejection that was, I guess, added after Apollo 1. So their module launched off of the rocket, but then it hard landed into a beach instead of into the water. So the astronauts, they survived, but they were kind of beat up from it.
They weren't happy.
They were not happy.
They did that well too. I felt that like in my bones when the capsule hit the beach, like
that thud. Yeah. Yeah, not fun.
No.
Anyway, and then we catch up here with Jamestown. So Ed and the team here, Gordo and Danielle, they're all trapped. Like, they have no relief. They can't. The Apollo 23 was supposed to be the end of their shift, so they have to keep going here with what the food they had. They are getting more supplies by unmanned rockets, we're told. Which I guess, but anything with the Saturn rockets are
which for the 70s is pretty incredible when you think about it.
Yeah. Then we
still can't get those damn things to land correctly.
Exactly. Then we go to this meeting here with Wisner and the NASA team. They're like, well, we're trying to look into the cause of the explosion, and we think it might be KGB agents. Who else is with us? And they're like, actually, we think it's this faulty valve on the thing that was leaking and it led to an explosion.
That's what I like about this director, though, because she's like not really having it.
Yeah,
she's just like, you guys are all retarded. Like, this is clearly the part that we just changed out.
Not cool, Jody. Don't say that. I did really respect that she was like, Respectfully, that's nonsense. Why are you still barking up this tree? You know?
Yeah, and this guy from, I guess, the CIA, he's like, but maybe it is KGB. We don't know.
FBI.
FBI, yeah.
Yeah, he was FBI.
So there's some political angles here. They're looking to, well, clearly the government wants to cover this up because as we'll find out in this, they kind of know that they gave the contract for this valve to the wrong company that led to this event. Money and political favors, but they're kind of pushing this narrative, and Deke and the rest of them are kind of trying to sort that out. Then we catch up here with Margot in Mission Control, who is writing on syntax.
Syntax error.
Jody, you might know about this, or maybe Kevin too. Actually,
What?
you guys know about this kind of computer language, right?
Yeah, this looks like a Commodore. This looks like BASIC.
This is basic. Okay.
This isn't basic because you have it execute, and then you also have strings with raids in them. So I would say probably Cobalt or something like that.
Yeah, well, it was neat to kind of see it. Then this guy, I never remember his name, the guy who left the sauerkraut.
Bill.
Bill. We find out that the new guy, Wisner, wants to see Margot, so he tells Margot this. But then they're talking about the photo of Jean here in Mission Control, and how Bill said, I don't like having to look at that every day now that Jean's dead. And she's like, well, it helps us remember him. Remember his memory. He's like, well, what about the 10 or 11 other people who also died? No one cares about them. Everyone cares about the astronauts. He talks about the Apollo 1 mission, that when they all died in that fire, everyone was remembering them. But the mission control guys, the engineers, these background players, like Gene, maybe Gene people remember, but everyone else is kind of expendable as far as the public mindset goes.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He needs to get rid of this mustache. I think it's not working.
He needs to take a lesson from Wayne and get a hot
He
mustache.
needs to bring more sauerkraut. You guys are clearly not looking at what's going on here.
Yeah,
Sauerkraut fixes everything.
but I don't know.
She just asked him if he's drunk. Are you
And
drunk?
she's like, "Are you drunk?" And he's like, "I'm off duty. I don't have to answer to you."
Which means yes.
Yes.
I'm almost positive NASA probably has some sort of contingency where they don't allow people to get stinking drunk in front of the launch consoles and stuff.
I don't know.
Like, Mind
They
you,
like
this
to
is the
smoke.
monitoring.
They like to smoke over everything, so I don't know. Like it's, but yeah, they're kind of thinking about Gene here.
And it does have his quote on it on the plaque.
Failure is not an option. So it's famous in this timeline too, that he
Mhm.
said it, even though there's no movie. Maybe there will be a movie about Apollo 11, I guess, and everything that happened with that. Anyway, so Bill storms off. I don't have to tell you if I'm drunk. Margot then notices, as she's getting up, she notices somebody's in the press box of Mission Control here, and it's Aleda, who we didn't see last episode. Aleda is up here, and Margot's like, "How'd you get in here?" We find Aleda's like, "My father's a janitor. He let me in." The security guard had said it would be okay, and Margot cancels red alert, I guess, as it's going, notices that Aleda's doing some algorithms and math. She's doing math work, which I don't understand, but they do, so that's fun. Margot says, "I remember those. That was tough." But Aleda says, "Not really. I can work it out." Then Margot goes to see Administrator
Weisner.
I keep having to learn all these people's names. Wisner's here, and Wisner says, "Hey, we want to send you to go collect a report." And she's like, "No, I'm not a courier. I know getting passed over for the promotion was one thing, but I didn't know I was getting sent to the mail room."
With attitude, she should be in the mail room.
Yeah, Wisner here says, "Well, it's a very special case. We eventually figure out that it is it's von Braun who has written this whole report about why Apollo 23 exploded, and he will only deliver his super intelligent, super insightful report if Margot goes and picks it up personally." And basically, Wisner gives her an order that he needs her to do this. He's tries to say it in a nice way, I guess, but he's pretty much sending her to go see Von Braun, who she definitely does not want to go see and does not want to talk to. But I don't know.
Yeah, she's like, he's a war criminal, and was just
He's-
like, yeah, but he's our war criminal.
He's our
so-
war criminal, and we kind of disagree on the specifics, because clearly Von Braun didn't get sent to any kind of war tribunal, didn't end up going, facing justice for anything he did. He just kind of was sent out of NASA. He was kind of, sent out of NASA in disgrace, but otherwise lives a pretty comfortable life, if not lonely, wherever he is. Yeah. I don't know. So Margot's got to go see Von Braun. That's kind of where this leaves us. Then we catch up with Baba Wawa again, and she's talking.
Her name
about
is Megan Dodd.
Megan Dodd.
Megan Dodd, the one playing Barbara Walters.
You're doing a
she
fine job, Megan Dodd.
Yeah, she is. She tells us about how what the name of the Russian moon base is that they're building up there as well. I think it was called
Zevia? Zesty? Something with a Z.
Yeah, something like that.
Zavia?
SZVEZDA. However you want to say that.
Zvezda.
Russian. And
Russian base, it's called.
Russian base. We see here on the overhead that it's 8 miles northwest of where the U.S. base is, Jamestown base is. So you could walk it. It's a bit of a hike, but it's quite possible to head over there. So yeah, they're very close to each other. And then we get this whole Nixon audio tape conversation, in wiretap style, as it's Richard Nixon, who's now been voted out of office as president, talking to the new president, Ted Kennedy, who just beat him in the election. And Richard Nixon telling Ted Kennedy, it would be a mistake to allow our team on the moon, to communicate with the Soviets. We don't want them talking to each other. Mayor Quimby here.
Do you have any chowder, Nixon? I'm going to give you a pardon.
Say chowder! Chowder!
Say it, Frenchy. Chowder.
Yeah.
Say it, chowder.
Yeah, this is a fun, I guess, a Photoshop they did here, because they had to, obviously Ted Kennedy never sat in that chair. So
they just put his head on
another body or something.
No, actually, that's a picture of him in his own office. They just put the Oval Office around him.
Oh, they put him in the Oval Office.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but he goes, I'm not calling about the advice, Nixon. I'm calling to let you know that I'm going to pardon you for Watergate, as Gerald Ford had in our timeline. And Nixon's pissed.
I love that they show this picture of Nixon swimming, and then the voiceover is like, fuck you, Kennedy, I don't want your pardon.
Yeah, I don't want to prosecute former political opponents in the justice system, so I'm going to give you a pardon.
Because he's worried about himself later on.
Yeah, exactly. I guess he's trying to set that get that going here. As my understanding, I wasn't alive at the time, but when President Ford pardoned Nixon, it was so unpopular that basically that's why Ford got demolished in the election by Carter, right?
Also because of Chevy Chase making fun of him and falling down as him on Saturday Night Live all the time really contributed to public image of him as a buffoon.
Hello, Homer. Do you like football? Do you like nachos? Yes, Mr. President. Would you like to come watch football and eat nachos? Anyway, so Nixon says, I don't want your effing pardon. Well, I don't need your permission, dick.
I'm not your buddy, pal.
I'm not your buddy, pal. And he says, you better watch yourself, Teddy.
I'm coming for you today.
I'm coming, Joey. Yeah. With what and where? Anyway, maybe spend less time in Palm Beach. What is that a reference to, Adam? What is he trying to say there?
That I don't know.
Okay, I was confused.
I think it's probably
Kennedy was involved in a scandal with a young lady in Palm Beach, I want to say.
I'm looking it up because that I don't know.
Yeah.
It sounds like Kennedy.
It sounds very plausible though, being Kennedy.
Right. Anyway, so then that ends, and then we go back to Jamestown here, where Ed is working on fixing something, and
Okay, so just searching Palm Beach, Ted Kennedy. I didn't even get through it. Palm Beach scandal. So there you go.
So it was
I'll
a scandal?
I'll find it out for fun facts. We'll be ready.
Okay. All right. We have here Gordo is talking to Tracy Stevens from Jamestown. Tracy's talking about she's looking for a new apartment. It seems that Gordo and Tracy are starting divorce procedure, or at least separation, kind of things. Gordo not thrilled about it. Said I thought we weren't going to decide on any of this until I got back. I guess it's for Gordo to go live in the apartment. It's not for her to go live in, right? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and just when I was starting to feel some sympathy for Gordo, even though, of course, she has every right to divorce him, he's not a great dad, and he's a cheater, and all the various reasons. And I was like, well, he's on the moon, and he's getting a divorce, and that's a bummer. And then he was like, what are you talking about, Sheila? I don't want anything to do with Sheila. She can't even cook.
Not like you, Trace. And then he goes, I don't want to bang Danielle. When she's like right next, having a shower or whatever. But yeah, Gordo, he's a bit in denial, but also not. I don't know. Like there's obviously some conversations between him and Tracy have taken place, that we haven't seen. But they're moving in different directions here, and they haven't told the kids. They haven't told their two sons yet at this point. But the conversation ends here, and then this I think what does Ed say? Trouble in paradise, Gordo. And then Danielle comes by and goes, I don't want to beg you either, Gordo. So
everybody's having a great time.
Everyone's having a great time on the moon.
Base.
Doesn't the moon look fun?
It's fun to me.
Then we have a scene here with Larry Wilson and his investigator from the FBI, I guess, the tape recorder, this witch hunt, to say, hello, Larry.
Did anyone else think that this conversation was going to end with them dating? Like, this guy, it really, really tracked as gay to me.
I heard you went to a gay club last week.
Yeah.
No, I would never do that. I would never go to the gay club. Oh, really? Because I heard you dance.
I heard you were at the Pink Pony Club. Is this true?
But I thought he was going to be like, well, I saw you there.
I saw you there.
And I was there. You were there. Let's not pretend anymore.
No, I didn't read it like that at all. I found it very menacing.
Yeah.
But I'm queer, so I felt like I was being asked questions.
Right. Larry's denying everything. He's like, I was home in bed with my girlfriend when you think I was at this gay club. There's no way. Just ask her.
I like that he said, I'm a Republican and a Methodist, and I don't hang around with a lot of artists and bikers,
militant gays,
militant homosexuals.
Bikers.
Yeah, exactly. Biker. Yeah, it was bikers, communists, and militant gays. I was like, what a convention that would be. But
sounds like
anyway.
a party.
Yeah.
So Larry's kind of giving the whole story here, but yeah, this guy's very intimidating. Just the lighting in this scene, everything about it. And then he kind of smiles when he seems to accept Larry's explanation about him being with his girlfriend, and he's like, well, you know what, you've been dating her for 3 years, how come you haven't gone down the aisle and got married yet? And that's not normal. But Larry, then we cut away from that scene to the Outpost bar where Larry's talking to Ellen and Pam, and he was and the paranoia that they're all being looked at, and he kind of explains that it's less about them going after gays because they're different, but also but more because they feel like the Soviets could use this as blackmail against them, and that's a problem for the government, I guess. So Ellen and Larry at threat here. So Larry lied about it. And he wants Ellen to lie too, right? He wants Ellen to back up his alibi and get the story here. And she's not too down with this at first, but he kind of says, well, or we can just come tell the truth and get labeled as deviant sex people or whatever.
Shit canned from NASA and held up for ridicule in front of the entire, or persecution in front of the entire world as perverts.
Yes,
I think is what he said.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That was more. and so Ellen says, well, okay, well, we better get our story straight. So she kind of decides she's going to go along with this and support the story. So, and
Can we just note that Pam's crochet vest is extremely lesbian librarian coded?
got it. Very noted. So, noted. So, yeah, so they're coming up with their plan here. Then we go to Huntsville, Alabama, as Margot coming in a trench coat for some reason in the middle of the day to see. Maybe it's cold. I don't know.
It's definitely
Yeah,
not
it's
some-
often cold in Alabama summer. I understand.
This must
Yeah.
be spring.
Must be spring, I guess. But anyway, Margot notices here at Von Braun's house that someone has carved a Nazi symbol into his swastika into his mailbox, and it's been painted over. Not so. Not such a good cover-up job.
Well, it's wood. Like, put a little bit of filler on that, sand it down, then paint it. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
They
Or
man.
just like close all the brackets, and then it's like a fun diamond.
Right? Yeah, that's what they do in prison. Anyway,
How the hell do you know that?
I learned it from Oz.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever seen that show?
I have not.
That's where. Well, I won't get into that right now. Anyway, so then Von Braun opens the door and he invites Margot in, and she's not too happy to see him and not too eager to chit chat. But he wants to talk about her father, who we learn has passed away in these in between years off camera. She's not super eager to talk about that either, but he basically says, well, you're going to have to stay for dinner. By the end of this conversation.
I think this house has been used before in film because it's so familiar to me, but I don't know why.
Yeah, it is kind of familiar. Anyway, so then we head over back to the Baldwin house for a scene where Tracy shows up to pick up her kids from Karen.
Modern woman Tracy Stevens shows up driving her own car in her work uniform to pick up the children she's neglected for her career.
Correct.
Wow.
Where's her Corvette? Why is she got the station wagon? Anyway, we'll see that the painting that Wayne gave to Karen has now been framed and been hung up.
I didn't notice that the first time I watched it. I only caught it on this rewatch tonight and thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's hanging with in a place of prominence there. Trace comes in to pick up her son, and she's like, "Oh, are you working on this Scouts project or whatever?" And he goes, "Yeah, weren't you doing that yesterday? But it was a year ago." That Tracy's working long hours at NASA, and Karen, as we mentioned, is kind of raising all three kids largely.
And props to the props department for using the correct cans.
Oh yeah,
I can't stress that enough. It's
Mhm.
something that constantly things get wrong, but I like that.
yeah, it was good there. They're working on their Scouts
Pinewood
project.
Derby, and there are a couple
Pinewood Derby.
of things in this conversation that they put in to let us know that Tracy has been working so much she's out of touch about what's going on with the kids, right? The thing about the Pinewood Derby being last year, and then she said something about pack meeting, and he was like, "Mom, pack meeting is only once a week and den meetings once a month. Like, you don't even know what's going on with me, Mom.
You don't even know. You don't
You don't even know,
busy.
Mom."
She's busy being an astronaut. Lay off.
Yeah.
Karen's being more.
And her husband's an ass.
Well, she's divorcing him. What do you want?
Well,
Um,
Karen is being more supportive, though. I think you were about to say, Dave. I think
yeah,
she's
than she had been previously with Tracy.
True. Yeah.
no snide comments this time, just helpful.
Just more helpful, and she tries to get Tracy to stay for dinner, but then Tracy goes, "Well, no, I got to get up early," and I'm like, "Whatever, you got to eat. Why don't you just eat a meal with your kid and then go home or whatever?"
I thought the next scene was going to be her at the bar at the outpost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be Gordo's move in that situation. But anyway, so Tracy ends up leaving her son, and she says goodbye to Karen here, but then we see her getting very emotional as she leaves the kitchen. Because she's not happy with how this is going. As a mother, she's not pleased with the current state with her kids, but she kind of trucks on. She's a working woman, so she's got.
Well, you don't know whether she's or Karen's been telling her about the the discipline issues either.
Right.
It seems like no, and it seems like Karen doesn't tell Ed about them later on in the episode either. So it seems like a lot of that's getting not passed along to the other parents. Then we go back to Alabama to Von Braun, as he's pictured here with Kennedy and some others, and he's having dinner here with Margot.
That picture actually looks like real because that didn't look at with Kennedy there.
Yeah.
Man, they cast him well, eh?
Mm.
Oh yeah. He's a little thinner than the real guy, but yeah. So he told Margot about how he met his father, and all this. They're having dinner. Von Braun.
Margot's also talked about how she had no relationship. The guy who liked his stamps.
Yeah, that comes a little later here, but yeah, like how he wanted to tell. He has like something he wants to tell her about her father, and she's just give me the report. She just wants to get out of there so fast, but he keeps prolonging this conversation, so it kind of goes long, and then eventually he gets this briefcase. She's like, "I need to tell you about your father." Pulls it out.
Well, when they were sitting at the table, he was saying, your father loved you very much and was very proud of you. And she's saying, he was very proud of me. When I graduated college, I was the first woman on either side to do so, by the way. He gave me a desk calendar. And as I'm not sure who just said a moment ago, that he would just go in his study. And there it is. Not one, not three, but 2 martinis and play with his stamps. And they had no relationship whatsoever. And then he gets out the files to explain to her why that is.
Yeah, why that is. He pulls out these the files, and we find out that her father worked on the Manhattan Project, which Margot did not know. He was the one who kind of came up with the whole idea of compressing the plutonium core to get it to a spherical implosion that led to the weapon that was used at Nagasaki. And we find out that the bombing had a profound effect on her father. And he was, I guess, Von Braun was the only one who knew this outside of government agents and so much. And this kind of made her father retreat from the world. And that's why he was a bad dad.
And the destroyer of worlds.
Destroyer of worlds, yeah. And so Margot then starts learning about this. We then go over to a scene here with Pam and Ellen. They're in bed with each other, and Ellen tells Pam, maybe we should take a break. Since the FBI has, been investigating everyone. She does not, she doesn't want anyone to know about her and Pam, and, Pam's kind of really taken. First, she doesn't really understand what she's saying. She's like, "Oh, because Ellen's like, where is this going? Where's this going? This relationship?" And Pam goes, "I don't know where you want it to go." But Ellen gives her, she throws cold water on it, I would say.
But I think that Pam honestly doesn't respect the amount of work that Ellen has done to get into the program and get as far as she's gone.
No,
and now she's remember, we've also been told at this point she's commanding the next crew.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Deke was told us early on the episode. He's got to serve under her on that mission, right? And yeah, so Pam just doesn't come from that world. She's not a public-facing person. She's she just lives a more regular life, if you will. And so this conflict between her and Ellen kind of begins here, where Ellen's kind of ending things. She wants to go on with her career, and there's no room for Pam in that. So Pam gets her heart broken. Any thoughts, guys?
I think Pam is very understanding about it at this point, because this is the first time that Ellen's really been clear about what's at stake here. The FBI is sniffing around, and Larry flat out said to her, either you lie or you tell the truth and we're both going to get fired and the whole world is going to think we're perverts. So the stakes are very, very high here. And Ellen, I think, is just really, that's really setting in for her.
Yeah. So that's
and they played the parts for so long now, and now it's all coming to a head, you know?
Mm-hmm.
right.
Sad.
So we go back then after that to Werner and Margot talking about that. He agrees to let her keep her father's files on the Manhattan Project. And then they get into this whole conversation about, you know, how she was passed over for the promotion. Well, first I think, does he explain like what happened with the valve first? This is a long scene. It goes on for a few minutes here, but
Well, they mentioned there was some sort of fault with it, but I don't
Right.
think they totally told you what it was.
and basically what Werner explains here is that the Kennedy administration wanted to pass that equal rights legislation. So NASA gave a government contract to a supplier in Illinois because they wanted the governor of Illinois to help ratify that amendment, right? So there was kind of a trading political favors here. But the company they gave that contract to ended up making a kind of a crappy valve that led to an explosion that killed a whole bunch of people, including Gene and the rest. And so that's kind of what's going on here. And this seems completely plausible that this could happen, that they would want to cover it up and that they won't let that happen. And then Werner then explains, like, you know, the reason you're not getting promoted, why they gave it to that other woman, is because you're not a team player. Yeah, you think everything's about merit, but you got to make those political connections. You got to work the system because every system is corrupt and everything else. And they get into a bit of an argument here, I would say. You know, certainly a disagreement. You know, that they're not the same, but yeah, I don't know. If I'm missing anything, let me know.
I don't remember what order that conversation happened in, whether he told her about the valve and the political favor trading first and then told her why she wasn't getting promoted. I don't remember which, but at the end of it, she's just fed up and just yells and asks for the report.
She just yells at it. She eventually demands to leave, and then he gives her the report, which is just on the coffee table the entire time, hiding in plain sight, as she says.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway,
But
now
in a way, that's almost proving his point, though, that would be one of the reasons why she was, or you know, her ability not to see the situation correctly. I think it was almost like a metaphor.
Yeah, right. She didn't see it all, and you know, so Werner gives her this information, but she's not forgiving him or, you know, looking past his past or anything like that. You know, he
actually
acts like
I like at the end of this conversation, he starts to get personal with her, like, and we find out that he basically raised her. You know.
Yeah, he was the one that was around more than his dad was. Her dad.
And that she learned to play the piano at his home, and he taught her and made her understand the similarities between music and science, and really passed on that knowledge to her.
Right. And so she wouldn't be who she is without him. But she can't. That also tortures her because he's like this monster, you know, from history.
It's like hating your maker, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, it's you know, everything else here, and so
I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to find out that my surrogate dad is a Nazi.
Yeah, not ideal.
No, don't need to know that.
Jody,
Jody,
you're a monster.
I know.
Anyway, let's go over here to Karen, who's bringing Shane along, I guess, to go have a conversation with Ed on the moon. They have like a special room here at NASA where they can go do that, I guess. And
where the kids never get to speak to their dad.
Yeah, exactly. Because Karen, we find out that Shane got in trouble again, not just for the cherry bomb thing, but for something else.
Something with water meters, breaking water meters.
Oh yeah,
something like that. So Shane's left out here to wait, and she's like, "I'm going to tell your father, and then he'll yell at you when it's time to yell at you."
Good use of that NASA technology.
Wait, no, go back one. Shane was definitely smoking butts out of that ashtray while he was waiting for his turn.
For sure.
100p.
Possibly, yeah. Anyway, so then it's this conversation with Karen and Ed. We find out that Karen and Ed are talking about having another baby. That they're talking about trying to, at least, and she can't really do that without Ed present, so that's kind of a non-starter. But
Moon baby.
yes, they talk about a lot
Send
of
her up
things.
for a little R&R.
They talk about, how he's tired up there. It's a lot of work. They talk about the Bob Newhart show, this Hi Bob thing. I never watched the Bob Newhart show, but it's a little before my time, but
I watched it. Okay.
I guess it was popular.
I'm beginning to think he just keeps saying a little. It was before my time, just to see how Adam reacts.
Why do you think it's all about Adam?
It's happened a couple times.
You're
'cause-
next oldest, Jody. So
I didn't really like the Bob Newhart show, just so you know, but it was.
I never watched it.
I was probably too young for it.
Yeah.
Jody wasn't, right?
What?
No, you were too young.
Adam's older than me.
Okay, exactly. Okay. All right.
Not
So
much, mind you, but
I'm the only '80s baby here. But we'll get. Yeah. Anyway, this conversation with Ed and Karen. She doesn't tell him about anything Shane has been up to. Or cherry
She
bombs.
thinks about it for a second.
She thinks he'll
when
tell him,
he
but then she
asked-
doesn't.
Yeah, when he asked if Shane's there, she goes, actually, no. And then doesn't tell.
Yeah. It doesn't.
I'm
tell
not gonna
him.
lie, Dave. I was wondering why there was cigarettes in there, but it turns
Where?
out it's just our wallpaper for our podcast.
Oh.
Yes.
Cigarettes in the bottom, because I've looked at it 3 times. I'm like, oh, they did figure out how to smoke, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not.
No.
That's
The
not
pack of
part
smokes does get noticed, yeah. Anyway, so then Karen, Karen's sad. Her husband's not coming back from the moon anytime soon. And she comes out and she's like, your father's very upset with you. I've been instructed to punish you accordingly.
Liar.
My mother used to pull this this thing where my father was so upset, or he wasn't.
Like
Oh,
you
I
wait till your father gets home kind of
home.
thing.
Wait until your
Yeah,
father
yeah,
gets
yeah.
home. Yeah, etc.
Now, do you remember that cartoon? Anybody?
Which one?
No.
Wait till your father gets home. No. Okay.
No.
No, you made that up, Adam.
No,
Yeah.
I can sing you the song if you want to hear it.
No.
I do.
Okay, come to think of it, yes, I do. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so then we got a scene here with Margot up and
And the warden.
the warden, the new NASA guy. She reads the whole report from Von Braun about the faulty valve and the company in Illinois and everything else. And he's like, well, this is interesting. She's like, well, what are you going to do? And he was like, well, I'm classifying this report as of right now because it's going to, as Von Braun had kind of suggested, that this guy, what's his name, Krishner? Weissner. He works for Ted Kennedy, and he's loyal to Ted Kennedy. He's a political animal, and he's only, so he's like, anything that's going to hurt the administration, he won't go for. So eventually Margot's like, well, because he's like, it's classified, and if you try to tell anybody, you're going to be arrested, and you're,
20 years in a federal penitentiary.
Yeah. All this, etc. Yeah. And she's like, well, I gave it to a friend of mine, and he's going to publish it in the New York Times tomorrow unless I say otherwise. So if you try to take me in, that's not going to work. Little does he know, Margot doesn't have any friends. So this is
Not a team player.
This isn't that big of a
Who's a
problem.
team player now, bitch?
yeah. Yeah. 'Cause you see her, like, she has this moment where she decides she's going to basically force his hand here. And she's like, I want the job. She's like, if you don't want me to tell everybody about this, about what caused this, then I want to be the mission control director. And she's like, well, there are no openings. And she's like, make one.
She says, make one, and gets up and leaves. Ice cold. I love that for Margot. Great.
Yeah.
Get it. Everyone around you is corrupt. The system is corrupt. Go for it. Get that
All
flight
bureaucracies are corrupt. You ought as well get yours. And she leaves them here, just to kind of contemplate it all. She won that chess match, I guess.
And he did literally word for word exactly what Von Braun said he was going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then Margot goes to see Aleda, who's still in the press box here in Mission Control, and she's like, "I want you to come to my office." Well, first she gives her Von Braun's ruler that he had given to her as a gift. Meaningful that she's now going to be her pupil, her protege, as she was his. And
how old is she supposed to be?
The mentee
Aleda?
becomes the mento.
How old's Aleda supposed to be?
Yeah.
I wonder if we can answer that. Aleda is.
She seems a little young for second year algebra.
Aleda was born in 61, so she.
And it's 74 now.
So she's 13.
13? Oh, I don't know. All right, I guess.
Very smart.
Very smart for her age. Yeah, so her and Margot have met, and that's going to continue their relationship. Here, come to my office in a few minutes. I'm going to teach you how to play piano or something. Because Aleda's like, I don't play the piano. She's like, you will learn, just like I did.
And I'm not a Nazi, Aleda, so get ready for some learning.
I'm way better than Von Braun. She's like, who's Von Braun? It doesn't matter.
I'm not a Nazi, but I was trained by one, so you're with me.
And I'll totally blackmail my government if I have to. If I want to
You
get
get
promoted.
all the discipline with none of the genocide. Let's go.
Yeah. We also
the kraut.
Ed had also told Karen during the conversation that Gordo likes to go out for walks looking for an apartment. So he likes to go on these spacewalks on the moon to kind of clear his head.
8 miles.
8 miles. He's heading
You're
towards.
You're not going to find any apartments on the moon.
No. Well, he's looking, though. He's going along, and I guess he's going towards where the Soviets have their base. He's just having a kind of a good time here. It's like, nobody's ever looked at this before. Isn't this fun?
This is cool. I love the reflective shields, and then they put them up, and you can still see the vague reflection across his face. That looks so sharp. They did a great job with the exterior shots on the moon.
Yeah, it always looks great here on the moon. So he's just kind of looking off into the horizon here, and then he notices these red little laser dots coming from the distance here. What's that? We see it again, and that's kind of just left ominous. We don't really get an explanation here other than we can kind of presume it's the Soviets. But what are they doing?
Now, I wanted to ask all of you, do you think he's really seeing something? Or do you think maybe he's starting to lose it a little bit? Because the indicators are there. He's looking like haggard and unshaven, and he's getting a divorce, and he's getting a bit like moody and looking at the window a lot, and so is he really seeing something? Or
he's also run out of his alcohol.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, we didn't really mention how he tried to get Tracy to like sneak a bottle of booze up into the ship.
Not to mention all of his hoes.
Yeah.
They're not there.
Not Sheila, though. She can't cook.
Not Sheila.
Except Sheila, though. She can't cook.
She flushes the toilet at opportune times, I gotta say. Anyway, so
Also, what do y'all think? Do you think he's seeing something from the Soviet base, or do you think it's an indicator that something might not quite be right with Gordo?
I thought the latter, because he didn't walk 8 fucking miles, right?
I don't think he went that
And
far.
we only saw it for a second, and then when he really focused in on it, we don't see it anymore.
Well, Kevin, 8 miles is a long way, but when you can skip half of it and get there a little quicker, it wouldn't be that hard.
True.
I suppose.
It's 13 kilometers almost. That's
And how much oxygen
Well, that's the question. How far can you go on one tank? I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of him finding the base rather than going nuts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why not both?
Why not both? Maybe.
Don't mind if I do.
So that is our episode in screenshots in terms of everything we saw there. Adam, do you have any fun facts for us? As we like to
I
say?
do, guys.
What do we call this segment?
They
Fun
better be
facts with
fun.
Adam.
Fun facts with Adam.
Fun fact.
Beautiful. So guys,
Not
it's
sure
getting
beautiful
hard
word, but anyway.
to find facts on these episodes because there's so much history. So let's get into that. You guys asked some great questions along the way. So as we were going, I looked up some stuff. So first of all, The Pardon of Richard Nixon by Gerald Ford. I'm going to skip through the nuts and bolts, but when he actually left, he being Nixon actually didn't want to be pardoned. He rejected it at first.
Wow.
And there was actually a law passed where the president could refuse a pardon, but anyway, he was talked into it and finally went for it. But
why didn't he want to be pardoned? Is it because it would like admit guilt, or?
Yes, because there was a great question. Because when you take a pardon, it means that you are guilty. That's not legal, but certainly that's the implication. Now, there was a lot of resentment. Ford actually went on. He won the 1974 midterms. And then in 1976, there was a presidential election against Carter. And the lingering public resentment, I don't know who said this, was actually a factor in his narrow loss to Jimmy Carter.
Like, he didn't win the midterms, the Republicans did.
The
right?
Republicans but when they went to the actual elections in 76, it wasn't a landslide by Carter by any means.
Okay. I guess nachos and football weren't enough for the American people. So.
No, they wanted peanuts. They wanted the peanut
peanuts.
president.
And they got it for a while.
The actual astronauts, being stuck on the moon. This is not, it isn't. I don't know if you guys remember, like about a year ago this month, actually, people were there was 2 astronauts up in space. They're supposed to be up there for a week,
Mm-hmm.
and is up there for 8 months by the time they came back,
Mm-hmm.
which was just in March. And those guys were like 62 and 59 years old, and they were up in the ISS for 8 extra months.
Trump said it was Biden's fault.
Of course it was.
Obviously.
Yeah. A little bit of fun with Deke Slayton. This guy was quite the man. He had he was a World War II pilot. He went on and this is not the fact that he was not he never got to the moon. However, he did get designated with flight status.
He got himself flights. So that's kind of true. Like
that is absolutely true. So he went through testing all over the world, doctors all over the world, to see if they could figure out what was wrong with him. And it was determined that he didn't have the heart condition, but went up into space on an Apollo-Soyuz test project. This is when they actually collaborated with the Soviet Union and put 2 ships up at once where they met in space. But during that mission, there was some fumes that went back into their command module, and all of the astronauts got really sick and were hospitalized as a precaution. But he was determined to have a lesion on his lung at that time, was removed, and then that was basically his career in space. But he got to space, which was great.
Did he get to
Good.
space? Oh, good for him. Okay, so cool.
And at that time, he was 51 years old, making him the oldest astronaut at that time to be in space.
Is he still alive?
I'm going to find that out for you. I knew that was next, personally.
Unlikely. He was born in 1924, but he could still.
He died in 1993 in League City, Texas. That's where my uncle lives.
Oh, he didn't even get to see Apollo 13.
The movie.
He did
He
not.
saw the real. He saw the real Apollo.
Thank you
So
for
good.
clarifying, Dave.
He saw the real Apollo 13.
That's better than the movie then, I guess.
Just hang in here for a second.
I don't know. The real thing didn't have Tom Hanks.
That's true.
Or
So-
Kevin Bacon.
What happened in Palm Beach, Heather? This is it. I do remember this because it threw me off because they were talking about like it was the 70s. But I guess they were being very factual here. They went. So I love this. Oh, hold on here. Yeah, I love this headline here. There are a few facts which everybody agrees on. Late the night of March 29th, Senator Ted Kennedy woke his son and his nephew and asked them to go out for a couple beers. The 3 went to a Palm Beach nightclub, O-Bar, where they met 2 women who later returned to the Kennedy estate with them. Here we go.
And then what happened?
Well,
Epstein.
so then, yeah. So basically, one of the women accused the nephew of raping her.
Ugh.
And then the other one accused Kennedy of basically showing up in front of her with no pants on. So I do remember this happening. So
So it was a party then.
it was a party. Well, not
Like a
party,
Louis C.K. party.
yeah. Then at the time there was like they were accused of getting the Kennedy treatment and trying to get off scot-free. And remember, this is Ted Kennedy, who's also went through Chappaquiddick and that poor woman who was killed. Like there's just all kinds of scandal in this guy. I'm glad he was never really made more than a senator. He just,
But in this timeline, he's president.
yeah.
But
Anyway, it was a big deal.
maybe the lesser of the Kennedy brothers. Like the least admirable.
I
Well,
don't
he
know. Robert Kennedy is doing a bunch of bullshit these days, so
Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, but remember, like they had
There is nothing
John
wrong
Kennedy.
with smallpox. Jeez.
John Kennedy was supposed to be the president. He was the president. Then Robert Kennedy was supposed to be his successor, and then he was shot. Like it's just
Well, I don't. There was an older brother as well. who
Patrick.
died.
Patrick was his brother. Yeah. The older brother was actually he died as well, and he was supposed to be that.
He was groomed to be president by the father, and he died in
Yeah.
World War II.
Yes.
And so then it became Jack Kennedy, who then eventually rose to the presidency, and then Robert and Ted. They were all like philanderers, drinkers, like they all had, but I don't know. The Kennedys also did a lot of good legislation and were kind of
Yes.
as we see.
well, none of them ever went to space.
No, but no.
They sent Americans to space, though.
Yes, they sent them. In particular, Jack Kennedy, who was got like that was his whole inaugural speech was like, "We will go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it's hard," and all that.
We started this episode talking about the Equal Rights Amendment. So just to see what that was, it was the proposed amendment to the United States Constitution, which would explicitly prohibit sex discrimination. It is still not currently part of the Constitution, though its ratification process status has been long debated. So in this episode, we were said in 1972 it was going to be ratified, right? But they needed 37 states, but needed 38 really. But so at that point they made it, but then they had to do something else, and that went on until 1982. Like this thing has just gone on and dragged on for decades. It was initially brought into Congress in like 1922. That's how long this thing had been dragging on, and still didn't get really done until the 80s.
That's ridiculous. You know what? If it was a bill to get men their boner pills, it would have been passed the fucking second it came up.
Whoa. Leave boner pills out of this.
Yeah, what did the boner pills ever
What
do
did
to
the
you?
boner pills do to you?
Listen, that's a different podcast, fellas.
That
Okay.
is a different podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And I think I'll wrap up here, but there's just a few other things. You'll like this, Heather. Shane Baldwin and Jimmy Stevens are working on their Cub Scout Pinewood Derby cars at the Baldwin's kitchen table in 1974. They're both wearing Oscar de la Renta designed Boy Scout uniforms, which were introduced in 1980. So
Ooh, they got their early adopter.
they got the Coke cans right, but they didn't get the uniforms right. So I will leave it there for the night, and we'll see you back next week with more fun facts.
Dave
Thank
is
you,
now
fun
infuriated.
I'm quite content. Okay, let's get into it. The ratings, everybody. Let's rate this episode. Jeff, of course, not with us. I was curious, really, to get Jeff's take on this whole Kennedy-Nixon conversation too, which apparently was voiced by the same guy who did both Nixon and Ted Kennedy in that whole.
Was
scene.
it really? That's fun.
Jim Meskimen did the voice of both. He's a voice
I
actor.
was really hoping to ask Jeff to do his Nixon impression of "I don't want to fucking pardon."
I don't watch our part, and apparently he's also going to impersonate John Lennon this season too. So look out for that.
Ooh.
But yeah, okay, it's home again. Jody, do you want to give us a rating for this episode?
This is a tough one. Because I like more of the action stuff, and there isn't a lot of action in this episode. I'm still gonna give it a 9.
Okay,
Very good
that's pretty
episode.
good. Adam,
8.
8 from Adam. I'll go 8. Kevin,
I like this a lot. I'm going to give this a 9.5 because I can't give it a 10 because it didn't inspire an outfit.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Heather?
That's why I took a point off.
I was going to give it an 8, but now that I've learned about the Oscar de la Renta Cub Scout uniforms, I will give it an 8.5.
Okay, and we'll catch up with Jeff next week about his rating. We are
Good.
averaging.
My fun facts are inspiring ratings. This is great. I'm progressive.
We're averaging 8.6 for the episode. This episode has a 7.7 rating on IMDb. It is one of the lower rated episodes of the season, but nothing bad.
I don't think we can trust the IMDb ratings for the first 2 episodes. It says 7.6 for both of those, which were out of the gate awesome.
I agree, but you could, sometimes these ratings they're inflated or under. I just kind of use it as a baseline to kind of give us a sense of where we are compared to maybe, because hundreds of people or thousands of people who have rated it.
Crazies on the internet.
Yes. Well, and
Like us.
that is the episode, Home Again. Now we are moving on to the next 2 episodes, which will both be directed by Mira Menon. Mira Menon. The first of which is called Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
And we will be reviewing that next week. Hi, Bob. We already know that's a reference to the Bob Newhart show, but what exactly that leads to, we'll find out. As we are, we got 4 episodes left in this season.
I'm eager to see this episode again because I remember it being a really good one. So I hope my memory is correct.
Yeah.
And Adam, you'll have to get us some Bob Newhart show fun facts.
Don't worry, I'll be on it.
Give us the Bob
I like
Newhart
the
scene.
Bob Newhart series in the 80s with his, this is my brother Daryl and my other brother Daryl.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. That was like a big catchphrase that I remember, my parents and them saying. My dad used to say that one a lot.
I've heard people older than me say it.
Yeah.
There was like so many Bob Newhart shows. Like, this is the problem. You don't know.
Were there?
Oh yeah.
I've heard people older than me say it.
I know. Everyone's older than you, Dave.
Not Jeff.
Not Jeff. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
my
but
name's Larry,
Jeff
and
probably
my brother
knows what
Daryl,
it
my other
is.
brother Daryl. Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay.
Jeff probably knows what it is.
He probably does. He's more of a Renaissance man than me.
No,
Okay.
no, that was Danny DeVito, not Bob Newhart.
That's true. That's true.
I watched Taxi. I remember that show.
Yeah.
You're
It wasn't
old enough
very
to
good
remember
either.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched it in reruns though. It wasn't when it first came on.
Reruns. Right. Okay. Well, we'll be back in 1 week. Also on Thursday, we are covering our next episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and it's a good one. It's Q-Who.
Ooh.
The introduction of the Borg in Star Trek.
We love it.
Yeah. Heather, you're on this one, I believe.
I know.
As is Jody?
Yeah, I think I am.
Heather and Jody.
I hope I am.
It's supposed to be my dad is the 4th panelist, so this should be fun.
This is good where we don't learn anything about Guinan.
Yeah.
So,
Don't trust this creature, Picard.
Are you on, Heather?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I can't wait to see your Guinan.
Oh, I did a Guinan.
I already know you
for
did a Guinan. It
Generation.
was fantastic.
Maybe she's
I'll
going to be
do a
bored.
freshie. New one. I should do a Borg costume.
Maybe I'll do a Borg.
Maybe we'll all
Okay.
be assimilated. Who knows? So look out for that on Thursday night. What else? I think we have a Trivial Debates coming up on May 25th. It's going to be Teenage
Am I
Mutant
on
Ninja. I don't know. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles themed.
Ooh.
Talk to Chris
Aren't
Murphy.
you hosting it?
I'm hosting it, but I'm not running it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm probably not on it.
are you a Ninja Turtles guy?
I like Ninja Turtles.
Who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
There is only one good Ninja Turtle, and that is Donatello.
Correct. Okay, so Adam, do you have an opinion, or are you only
No.
about Bob Newhart?
I'm not about Bob Newhart. Too old for me, and then Ninja Turtles too young. So we missed
What are you
out.
gonna do? What are you gonna do?
I did put out the wait till your father gets home in the chat. You guys can take a look at it later. It's a great opening.
Just wait until my father gets home. We're gonna have to talk about Q Who.
It was the Borg. We didn't.
I
know.
just want to be
No.
called an idiot. I want to be
All
called
right.
an idiot. And
It's been
definitely
5 years,
gonna
Jody. Get over it.
in there.
It's been
It's
been
gonna
5
happen.
years.
It's
It only
gonna
happened
happen.
once. And it's only because you
gonna happen
insulted his
again.
Gary 7 like 10 times in a
Gary
row.
7 sucks. And I hope you're watching, Ted.
Yeah.
First of all, he doesn't.
Jody, you're an idiot.
I think you are an idiot.
That was the
You're an
best.
idiot.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, everybody.
Even I laughed. It was just funny.
Yeah, it's just Gary 7.
And then he just disappeared.
Yeah. That was
My
it.
favorite line from that whole thing is, "Oh, is Jeff going? Oh, Dad, bringing the hot fire."
Pretty hot fire.
Dad's coming in hot. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks to Heather, Adam, Kevin, and Jody. And regrets from Jeff Mater, wherever he is. And we will see you next
He's
time.
got
here
no regrets, I can tell you right now.
on Live Long and Podcast. Have a good one, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, I'm Tim Russ. Live long and podcast.